Well, you say unemployment is below your measure of full employment. The inflation rate doesn't respond, though. Do you question yourself? Do you say, maybe I don't understand what's going on with inflation anymore?
So we certainly have to ask ourselves whether there's been a more permanent shift in inflation dynamics that we don't understand. I think at this point, it's too early to make that kind of judgment. Wages and salaries are slowly going up. They're still at a level that's relatively low by historical standards, but we're definitely seeing wage growth. We're definitely seeing the employment cost index go up, and those are indications of a tight labor market. And we should remember it's only the last couple of quarters where we've had an unemployment rate that would be below my 4.7% full employment.
So you still believe in the Phillips curve model?
I believe that if labor markets get tight enough that you'll start seeing wage and price pressures over time.
Does the Fed have an alternative explanation if that model doesn't come through? If we don't see inflation start to rise again, then what do you do?
Well, we'd have to try to understand what the reasons for that are. There certainly have been a variety of explanations that have been thrown out. One would be greater globalization as a possibility. If you look at the imports that we have in the United States, it's not dramatically different than 10 years ago. So I'm not sure globalization actually does a very good job of explaining why inflation would be persistently low when we had very tight labor markets, but that's something we'd have to continue to look at. People talk about structural changes in the economy, but for a persistent change in prices, you need that structural change to keep continuing going forward. So the important thing is we're trying to get at that underlying rate of wages and prices, and it would be very unusual if we got very, very tight labor markets and there was no response. It would basically be saying labor demand and supply no longer works, or that corporations, as they start facing higher wages, are willing to continue to shrink their price margins. And my expectation is we will see, as labor markets tighten, wages go up, and we'll see that firms want to maintain their profit margins. And so with a lag, you'll start seeing prices move up as well.